No, I can hear you.
She's in.
I can hear it. Hilda's in. Oh, wait. Okay, this is so weird for the people joining in on YouTube, but welcome in. That's so exciting. We got it working. The tech functions. I love it. All right. So my name is Jesse, and I am with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. For those joining us for the first time, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. And we are really excited this April because all month long, we are celebrating climate science, climate research, and trying to seek to share the change in the polar regions of the world. So that's all being sponsored by Environment and Climate Change Canada, who have been a great benefactor to us and helped make this month possible. So we're really excited to have them. We also just had our final class join us. Everyone's joining all at once. I love it. All right. So right now we've got 6 classes joining from across North America. I'm going to give them a chance to do a bit of a shout out, and then we'll dive right into our presentation. So we've got Miss Irwin's grade 2s in Parker, Colorado. Hi, guys. We've got Miss Matsuda's grade 4 and 5s in Kemuela, Hawaii. Hi, guys. Punching above their weight with far too much enthusiasm. We've got Mr. Chin's grade 8s in Markham, Ontario. Hi, guys. We've got Miss Zamora's class pouring in, grade 5s in San Antonio, Texas. Hi, guys. Their mics off, so they're just like a bunch of mice, even more exciting that way. We've got Miss Quilty's grade 7 through 11s in Montreal and Quebec. Hi, guys. And last but not least, joining us just a second ago, we got Miss Herman's grade 7/8 in Blue Hill in Maine. Hi, guys.
Hey.
The teacher, that's perfect. Whoever's there, whoever's excited. Of course, the reason you guys are all here today is for our speakers. So we are joined live from both Norway and BC by Hilde and Strøm and Sunniva Sorby. So they bring with them decades of experience in the Arctic and Antarctic respectively, pushing the boundaries of exploration and education from those regions. And they're joining up on the Hearts in the Ice expedition, where they will be going to a remote hunting cabin in Svalbard in Norway, which is already such a remote island, it has more polar bears than people, to spend 9 months overwintering there, sharing their experiences in this remote place and engaging citizens on a dialogue around climate change and change in the polar regions. Without further ado, thank you so much, Hilde and Sunniva, for joining us, and take it away.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Hi, everybody. So happy that you could all join us. This is mildly overwhelming. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we sure can. Sorry, I just got myself muted. Yep, we're good.
Great. So, do you want me to start us off, Hilde, and then you can run?
Yeah, so you can dive in. Just so a note with Sunniva and Hilde, just because we don't usually have 2 people in one hangout, I'll just keep one of you muted, and then one of you can talk, and when you want to turn it over to the other person, let me know, and I'll just turn it over that way.
Okay, sounds good. I'll just start us off, and thanks everybody for joining us this morning, or it's afternoon for you. I've had a very varied career, to say the least. I've had a lot of different corporate jobs, and I've started some of my own companies, and now I work for a polar operator that operates 2 ships in Antarctica, and I've actually spent many years working in the Antarctic, and as both an expedition guide and then also historian on board the ships. And I've seen a tremendous amount of change down there. And I'm just going to switch over and just show you a map very quickly on the Antarctic. Oops. Let's see if I can get that up here. This place is, let's see.
Yeah, we did it in practice. We can nail it in the actual presentation, I bet.
That's it. Okay, so if you can see that, you're seeing a map of the Antarctic, yes?
Not quite. We're still on me. So last time in practice, we did the thing, you clicked one more element of this, and then it brought it up. So wherever that is.
Okay.
You got it.
I got it?
Yep.
Okay.
Excellent.
So what you're seeing is a map of the Antarctic here, and this is a very big continent. We know that the Arctic is warming a lot more than the Antarctic, but it's difficult to pinpoint the change that's happening down here because it's such a big continent. But what we're seeing is, if you look on the left side where it says Antarctic Peninsula, that's where we're seeing a lot of the change down there. And it's because the ice is warming, well, the temperatures are warming and the ice is melting, and we're seeing a real change in the different penguin species. We're seeing like populations decreasing by almost 50% of the Adelies and the chin straps, which is a huge problem. So for the time that I've spent down there exploring, it's adventuring is one thing, and it's been incredible to be an adventurer down there and explore. But when you, over the decades, you start really having an emotional reaction to the change that you're seeing, you can't not do something about it. So, I've been across the Greenland ice cap. I've skied to the South Pole. I've climbed up Kilimanjaro, and I've had so many great adventures in my life. But it's one thing to actually stand up and want to do something about the changes that you're seeing. So we started this project called Hearts in the Ice about 2 years ago, and it's our way of bringing, students like yourselves into the conversation around climate change, because you're from Hawaii, you're in Quebec, you're in Maine, you're all in different places around the US and Canada, and you're experiencing different impacts where you live. And so with our Hearts in the Ice project, we're trying to elevate the conversation to a level where each one of you and each one of us does actually do something about it. So our project is really to engage everybody in the conversation. And I'm just I consider myself what do I consider myself? An everyday person just like yourselves. I've maybe had some adventures that you haven't had yet, but we all can do great things, and collectively I think we can do many big things together. So I'll pass it over to Hilde right now. I'll just say that I'm in Squamish, British Columbia, and this time next week I'm going to be traveling up to the Arctic. I'm going to be spending some time with Hilde, and we're going to go to the cabin that we're going to be based at for about 9 months. So we want to take you all with us.
Very cool. And
so
thanks so much,
Hilde, over to
Hilde. You're good whenever you're ready. Yeah.
Well, I have a slight problem here because you can still hear me. Can you?
We can hear you and see you. Yeah.
Good, but I didn't hear anything about what Sunniva said. But I'll just tell you a little bit who I am and where I live and what this is. She probably told you about this project already, but I've been living here on Svalbard since 1995. And I love this place. This is really this is the high Arctic, and as you said earlier, it's more polar bears up here than human, and the nature is really, it's fragile, and we have seen changes up here that are bigger than anywhere else in the world. So since I came in 1995, and in particular maybe the last 10 years, we've seen such a temperature rise. When I came here, it was a lot of sea ice, and now it's a lot less sea ice, which is a problem for those animals that are sort of, that needs sea ice. And we have more land ice, which is a problem for those animals that eat grass and stuff on land. So and actually 100 months in a row we've had temperature rise now, and that's more than 8 years, and that means that January this year is warmer than January last year, and for 8 years in a row. So every month in a row has been have had higher temperature than last year and the year before for 8 years. So the diversity in the ocean is also different. We have species up here now that we didn't have when I came here, and I don't think we, not even the scientists, know the reality of that, how that will affect us. What we do know is that phytoplankton, that little species that actually produce a lot of oxygen to our world, is struggling because now the water is warmer and sweeter. All the glaciers are melting dramatically, and also this used to be a desert, Arctic desert, when I moved up here. And now it's a lot rain and snow coming down. And we had a very dramatic situation in 2015 that actually made me feel that this Bamsebu project started to have a real reason, because in 2015, the 19th of December, we had a big avalanche, and that avalanche took away 12 of my neighbor houses. And this was Saturday morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, and people were inside their houses. 14 people were buried inside their homes, and 2 people died. Among them, it was 2 sisters that were playing, and they were just before they went out of their house. They were in the hallway, and they were playing there, waiting for their dad, and both of them were buried. And there were 2 and 4, and they both were buried for almost 2 hours. And the little girl of 2, she died. So that was actually the first climate change death, I would say, here in Longyearbyen, which actually changed the whole community, changed Svalbard, changed me. Yeah, it's important to tell the story and try to engage you guys. I'm sure you already are engaged in climate, and but try to engage people all over the world to make a contribution, because I really think that we protect what we love. And every little, yeah, there you can see the picture of the houses, and my house is one of those houses there, and the avalanche just missed my house with 10 meters, and we were very much involved in, you can imagine, looking for a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old under all that snow. So there were several meters below the snow, and they were inside the house when the avalanche came and took their houses. So a very dramatic tragedy that changed the lives of everyone who lives in Longyearbyen. We're 2,300 people now. So yeah, that's more or less about me. I'm sure Sunniva told you everything about the project, and we really look forward to this, and we hope to engage as many of you as possible. And if she didn't, she might do that now.
Thank you so much, Hilde, and that's a very dramatic story. So did not dive into the present expedition in depth, so we look very forward to that, as well as hearing your story was very, very personal. So Sunniva, in Antarctica, where you've spent a lot of years, what have been the changes that you've seen before we dive into what you guys are doing in Hearts in the Ice?
Yeah, we've seen a real decline in the krill species, which Hilde mentioned, the phytoplankton. That's you know, a very important entity in the ocean, and the krill eat the phytoplankton, and everything eats the krill. And so krill is being harvested for krill oil now, and you know, in the same way cod liver oil has been harvested, and that's not a good thing. So the penguins are actually diving much deeper in the ocean and traveling much greater distances just to find food. We're seeing that some of the species are actually doing quite well. For example, the Gentoo penguin is on an incline, and that's because they're eating things, eating other types of fish, not just krill. But the chinstrap and the Adelie penguins are primarily eating krill, and they're seeing a decline in that. And the species, the breeding populations, have decreased by, like, there's a place called Deception Island, which is an old whaling station set up in the early 1900s. And they counted, and there are people, believe it or not, that are penguin counters that go down and physically, with a little counter, count the breeding pairs. And they in 1990, there were 90,000 breeding pairs of penguins at Deception, and today there are less than 50,000. And so that's a huge decline. We're seeing places that used to be completely ice covered year round no longer have ice. They're barren, and rock is exposed. The ozone is sort of a success story. So CO2 emissions, that used to be that the penguins had cataracts in their eyes, but that's no longer the case. So that's kind of a success story. But it's just, you know, all these little dynamic changes, one little change at a time, impacts a whole series of events that impact our entire ecosystem. So it's a very real thing.
Okay, and then do you want to tell us a little bit about your expedition in detail, what you guys will be doing when you're out there?
Yep, absolutely. And so you're looking at, I'm hoping, a map of
Not
Spitsbergen.
yet, no, we're still looking at you right now.
Oh.
That's okay.
Okay, hold on.
You showed us some great.
No, hold on. Let me just.
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah, let's just. You seeing it now?
Nope, still you.
No. Okay. Well, I don't want you to see me all the time. Let's just get this going here. 1 second. Screen share. Stand by to stand by.
Crossed. It wants to work.
Yeah, it wants to work.
We're getting there. Now we see Spitsbergen. Perfect.
Okay. Now can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So what you're looking at here is Spitsbergen, and that little dot is a trapper's cabin. It was built in 1930 for the beluga hunters in that area. And it is situated right here. It's on a little spit. Can you see that? It's a 20 square meter cabin. It's very remote. It's 140 kilometers from the nearest neighbor. There are 2 ways to get there. One is by snowmobile. So when I go next Wednesday, I fly out next Wednesday night. When Hilde and I go there with, we have a small team coming with us to supply. We're going to have to swap out a stove and do some work on this hut. We're going to go in there with a snowmobile and a trailer behind the snowmobile. It's a 5-hour ride to get there. Otherwise, we come in with a ship. It's a very, very, tight cabin, small cabin. And it's, you can see those round logs. They are designed intentionally to keep the polar bears out because it is an area that has, as Hilde shared with you already, there are more polar bears there than there are people. And so one of our challenges will be, we're going to be here. What you're looking at is our home for 9 months. We're going to be starting this expedition in the middle of August, and we will be here all the way from August to May 1st, 2020. We're going to be just the 2 of us, and we are going to be collecting data for researchers studying climate change in the Arctic. So we're working with NASA to do cloud observation. We're working with the Scripps Institute of Oceanography in La Jolla to measure the impact of the Gulf Stream, like the phytoplankton. With all this water, all this ice melting, it pours fresh water into the salt water. And that's a problem for phytoplankton because they breed and thrive in salt water. So we're going to be collecting saltwater samples. We're going to be observing the wildlife in the area because there are fox, seal, polar bears, ptarmigans, and we're going to, this is us and boom, boom. We're also going to endure 3 months of darkness. So we have 3 entire months where we're not going to see the sun. And Hilde is familiar with this, but I have to tell you, it is not something I'm very familiar with. I was born in Norway, but I grew up in Montreal, and I know that Trafalgar's on the call, and I'm so happy. I graduated from Trafalgar, and I'm used to seasons, and my seasons include sunrises and sunsets. So it's going to be a very, very different existence to be up there. So we have a lot of considerations to take into account. We're also going to be testing solar and wind. There's no running water and no electricity where we are. So we're going to be collecting ice for water, melting that. We're going to use solar and wind for our power source, and we will have a backup generator just in case. So that's a little bit about the project. And we're also, from this remote station here, we're going to be making a live satellite call to a different school every 2 weeks. And we're hoping it's going to be a video call like this. And we're just still trying to get the right technology to be able to connect with the satellite so far north. We're at 78 degrees north.
Thank you so much for that. What a stunningly beautiful site, by the way. All right, guys, if you guys are both okay with this, what we'll do is we'll dive into questions, and then I'm sure all the other elements of your expedition will come out in those questions and answers, and we'll try and keep it where I go between one of you each at a time, so you both get an opportunity to answer an equal amount of questions. Does that sound good? Hopefully. Good. I'm going to take that as a yes. We also got a bunch of groups watching on YouTube live. So anyone who's watching on YouTube, if you guys want to type in your questions in the chat bar on the right, I'll pass them along to Sunniva and Hilde. So please do that. But yeah, let's start out with Miss Irwin's class. If you guys have a question, come on up.
Okay, Talon's gonna ask a question. He's coming up. Oh, sorry, Nolan. Nolan.
What is the most dangerous part of this expedition?
Excellent. And I'll take that to Hilde first, and then we'll go back to you, Sunniva, in a minute. So Hilde, what's the most dangerous part of your expedition?
Can you repeat that, please?
Yes, what's the most dangerous part of your expedition?
I think the most dangerous part with our expedition will be both the weather, but maybe the polar bears. I'm absolutely sure that our stay down there will attract a lot of polar bears. The name of the yeah, that's that's it. The name of the house, I don't know if Sunniva mentioned that, but the name is Bamse, is a polar bear in English, and it has been a lot of polar bears down there before. So and I know it's a lot of polar bears in the area. So it's sort of our task to tell them that they are not welcome around the hut. So we need to scare them away in order to be safe down there. Otherwise, it's also the rough weather, and it's going to be 3 months of total darkness. So the combination of sorry, of the weather, the darkness, and some angry polar bears would be the most dangerous part, I think.
And so, out of curiosity, how do you scare away the largest land predator in the world, Hilde?
Well, it's we have something called I'm not actually sure what it's called. It's sort of a shotgun, but it's nothing dangerous in it for the polar bear. It's a rubber bullet. So in case they are very close, we will need to use that. It's like it hurts, but it doesn't sort of wound them in any way. It doesn't go through the skin, but it's really painful. So if they come too close, that will be something we will use. And beside that, we will use some sort of a firecracker that gives a lot of noise and a big bang and some lightning, like as when you do a firecracker during New Year's Eve, something like that. That usually works. But they are kind of used to high sounds from the glaciers that calves. Yeah. So it needs to be something in addition to just the bang. But these equipment usually works.
Okay, well, hopefully it does. Usually is not the sort of term we want to use, but fingers crossed. Yeah. All right, let's dive into our second question, and Sunniva can handle this one. Miss Matsuda's class, come on up.
How do you get electricity if 3 months of the year you don't have sun?
Can you say that again? How do you get electricity?
If for 3 months of the year you don't have sun. So if there's no sun for 3 months, how do you get electricity? And do you have electricity at all?
That's a brilliant question. Thank you. What's your name?
Oh, let's go back. Sorry. There we go. What's your name? Madison?
Addison.
Addison.
Okay. Thank you for that question. So you're right. For 3 months during our 9-month stay, we're not going to have any sunshine. So we are going to rely on, we're going to have a windmill on top of a container that's being kitted out for us for our power needs. And so we're hoping there's enough wind to generate electricity for us. And if that does not work, because we can't not power up our resources, because we're going to be needing to communicate with schools like yourselves, we'll have a backup generator that will be operated with white gas. So that's we have sort of a 1, 2, 3, you know, a solar, wind, and then the backup generator. And then we'll have candles as well for some light inside the hut. But I think that's going to be one of my biggest dangers, is navigating the darkness for 3 months. Thanks for your question.
Great question, guys. So Hilde, a question from a group online. So Miss Thompson's class wants to know, how do you get supplies in for the 9 months?
Yeah, that's a good question. We are going to hunt a little bit. We will hunt like seabirds and geese, and then we're going to fish. But also we will make sure that we have enough provision for those 9 months. Everything we need, nutrition and stuff. But we are planning also to be able to harvest a little bit from the area we will be in. Hopefully, we will get a lot of fish.
Fingers crossed for that too. Excellent, great answer. All right, Mr. Chin's class, if you guys have a question, come on up.
What would you say to those who don't believe in climate change?
Ooh, Sunniva.
That's a great one. You know, last December I was up in visiting Hilde, and thanks for your question. I was up in Svalbard visiting Hilde, and we're working on a documentary on this expedition and this project currently, and we met with several researchers that have been studying, not for 1 year, not for 2 years, but for 30 years. They've been studying our climate. And one of the men is called Geir Wing Gabrielsen. You don't have to repeat that. He is somebody who wrote a book on the plastic in the ocean. And he said he's always surprised as somebody who's been studying this, because what you don't count in our life doesn't get measured, right? But he's been counting, he's been measuring all of this for decades now, and he cannot believe that there are people that are climate deniers. It is a very real thing. I think we just need to keep collecting stories of how it impacts lives, like in your neighborhood, and the more stories we collect around the rising sea level or the storms that we're experiencing at accelerating rates, the plastic that we're finding in whales and fish and birds in their stomachs, those stories become examples of how real it is. So what I would say to the people who are denying the fact that there is climate change, I would just say, have an open mind, and let us increase the dialogue and the stories, and share the stories, because they are the real examples of something we cannot deny.
I'm so glad we got that question. We've done a lot of climate hangouts in the past, and it's the first time that question's ever been asked, actually. It's worth noting that the scientific consensus has been firm on this for many, many decades, and I love that your two stories actually blended in personal experiences with this alongside storms. Most of the kids in these classes will have seen storms change during their lifetime. I certainly have. But it's nice hearing, well, not nice, hearing how the Arctic and Antarctic have changed in that time scale as well. So thank you, guys. All right, Ms. Zamora's class, if you guys have a question, come on up. Okay, sorry. So Ms. Zamora's class, your audio works, but it's insanely high pitched, so we can't actually make out what you're saying, unfortunately. So what you'll do, top left of your screen, a little blue chat bar, white lines. If you type in your question there, I'll pass it on. Sorry about that, a little technical difficulty, but once you type that in, I will share it. In the meantime, Miss Kalachi's class, who joined us a little bit in, you guys have a question? Come on up. Hey! Go ahead, guys.
What's your favorite part about your job?
Okay, so that's for Hilda. What is your favorite part about your job?
Oh, my favorite part about my job. Since I'm here on Spitsbergen, I think my favorite part is being able to travel a little bit around in this beautiful, beautiful area. So taking guests or visitors around and show them, maybe walk around here, or maybe do a kayak trip or a dog sledding, maybe go into the ice or the glacier. I did that this weekend with some friends coming visiting. That was great. These are like caves made out of water during the summer through the glaciers. That's really great. Or do a snowmobile trip maybe. So yeah, all the exploration with guests coming to Svalbard. That's my favorite part of my job.
Sounds like a pretty fun part of your job. Yeah. Cool. We got a question from Ms. Zamora's class came in, so I'll pass this to you, Sunniva, and it's a question I had too. How do the logs protect the house from polar bears?
Okay, thank you for asking that question. So those very big logs that you see, believe it or not, in Svalbard, where Hilde lives, there are no trees. You won't see a single tree grow up there. It's too far north. What they have on the ground is what we call permafrost. And one of the reasons that climate change is a very real thing is the permafrost should be permanently frozen, but it's warming up. So those logs that you see along the side of the hut and also next to the hut are actually have floated in because of the circumpolar current. They come from Russia and Siberia. And so over time, because Hilde has spent maybe 2 decades, like every Easter, she's been going to this particular hut. It's a privately owned hut. 3 Norwegian men own it. And she's been carrying those very, very heavy, long logs from the shore up to the hut. And when it was initially built, they used those logs to sit at an angle along the side of the hut, along the walls, so the polar bear can't get through. So they're spaced so close together that the polar bear can't actually get through and, you know, ruin the side of the log cabin or get in the window. And also the windows have wood that's about this thick and nails that are about this long, spikes. So the polar bear can't actually get to the window. So it's pretty reinforced.
Very cool. It's a testament to how big polar bears are that the logs, spaced as they are, because you showed us the picture, are the thick that the polar bear can't get through. That means it's like a huge, like, again, it's a huge animal we're dealing with here. Great answer. All right, Miss Quilty's class on the last of round 1. If you guys have a question, come on up.
Sure.
Worst comes to worst, like, do you have any way of sending a distress signal? And did you ever hesitate to engage in the project before you even started?
Wow, great question. So Hilde, you can handle that one.
Can you repeat that? I can't hear them. I just hear you.
Oh,
sorry.
Funny. So, you know, worst case scenario, if anything goes wrong, do you guys have a way of sending out a distress signal? And as you were getting ready for this expedition, did you ever have any hesitations to begin with?
Well, yes, we don't have internet connection and we don't have cell phone connection, but we do have Iridium. It's a satellite phone that we can, so we can call. And I also have a little, both of us will have a little beeper around our neck that will send satellite communication that we are in distress if it's really, I mean, if it's urgent. But then it's a big thing starts rolling. Then it's a rescue operation. So that needs to be and very like fatal or very it needs to be necessary to call for help. Otherwise we have this satellite phone, and I mean if we need some help, which is not like just now but maybe tomorrow or a week from now, we can call and ask for any support. But it's a national park. It's very remote. They are not supposed to fly in there with a helicopter, so it needs to be a real thing. But I mean, we could also call for support, like if, yeah, maybe we can handle the stuff on our own just by talking to someone and get some expertise, maybe. And if we've had some second thoughts, was that the question number 2, or? Yeah,
something like that.
Well, yeah. Well, it's a long period. It's a long time. We're going to be there all by ourselves. It's as I said, difficult to reach us and come visiting us and help us. So we need to be able to take care of ourselves. Just 2 weeks ago, I was on a hut that I've been staying at for 24 winters, like just for weekends. And I knew it was a lot of polar bears in that region, in particular in this period. And we actually barricaded that door because the door there are going inwards. So we barricaded because that door is really loose and easy to sort of open if someone wants to come from the outside, wants to open it. So we barricaded that door, and we woke up at 7:30 in the morning, and it was a polar bear mom with 2 big kids that wanted, or cubs that wanted to come in, and she was really banging the door. And if I hadn't sort of barricaded that door, they would have been inside the hut, and that's not a situation we want to be in at Sorby. So yeah, it's a lot of things that can happen, but I think both me and Sunniva is really excited to go and to experience this for 9 months in the wilderness, be a part of the nature, the surroundings, the light, the everything. I think we will be okay, and we have a lot of experience, both of us. So it'll be good.
Outstanding. Well, thank you so much. All right. So I know we're getting close to the end of school days, guys. So we're going to try and get through as many more questions as we can. Ms. Zamora's class, if you guys want to type another one in, I will pass it along. While we're getting ready to do a second round, I just want to share a question again from a group online. What are you guys going to do in your downtime, Sunniva? And do you even have any downtime?
Great question. Actually, somebody joked and said we're going to be, drinking tea and playing cards, and that's probably not going to happen. When you're living in a place that we are at Bumsaboo, you're spending a lot of your time just taking care of your daily routines. And we're going to be chopping wood, we're going to be collecting ice for water, we're going to be cooking our meals, we're going to be collecting data. So we have to go out and drop a little thing called the castaway device in the ocean. So we have to drill a hole through the ice and drop that thing in. The cloud observation we're going to be doing, just collecting all the data will involve a fair amount of our time. In my downtime, I hope to be creative. I might drive Hilde a little bit crazy, but I'm hoping maybe I'll learn how to play the guitar finally. I don't know. I'd like to draw. I would like to draw what I'm observing. What I'm seeing outside, because we'll be experiencing the aurora borealis up there, all the beautiful lights at night. And I'll be writing in my downtime. And we also, both Hilde and I, are very celebratory. We both like to, celebrate life and the fact that we get to move around and do the things we do. So once a week, we will probably do something that sort of celebrates the fact that we're there doing what we're doing. And it could be exchanging a little gift or a small surprise or something. So for each other. So yeah, that's kind of our downtime. Maybe we'll play cards. I don't know.
Well, we'll follow up with you when you're done the expedition, find out if you got solitaire down by then. But perfect.
That's right.
So let's start with Miss Quilty's class, actually, and then we'll try and get through every class. If we can get one question, that would be great. Go ahead.
How are you going to get your water, and how are you going to make sure it doesn't freeze on you?
Okay. So Hilde, how are you going to get your water, and how are you going to make sure it doesn't freeze on you?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. And that's actually one of the biggest tasks that we have. What we are planning to do is, if this is if it's getting dry and cold quickly during the autumn and the river sort of dries out, then we will need to try to catch some calved ice from the glaciers and actually tow it up on land and store it there. And then if it's still a little water inside the ice that actually freeze, we will sort of use an axe and collect ice. And when the snow comes, then we're all good. But it could be a little difficult between maybe September, October to get enough water. So that's going to be one of our biggest challenges, I think, when it comes to to what we need.
Great question, great answer. All right, from Ms. Zamora's class, the question for you, Sunniva, is, are there underwater volcanoes in the Arctic that cause earthquakes or landslides? Any natural disasters you guys might face when you're there?
Wow, underwater, I don't know. I can't answer that. I have never heard of underwater volcanoes in the Arctic. So I can't answer that question, but maybe you can find out for me.
Okay. We'll track down the answer. We'll keep in touch and make sure you guys know that before you head out. All right. Mr. Chin's class, if you guys have a question, come on up.
We were wondering how does your gender affect others' viewpoint on your research?
Okay, that's a tough one. So Hilde,
I would ask the question.
Yes.
Okay, Hilda, there we go. The question was, how does your gender affect other people's viewpoints on your research?
How does my gender affect?
Yeah, so because you two are women, is there any, I guess, pushback, any feedback you've gotten, any negative or positive associations that have been made by people based on what you're doing because you're women?
Yeah, I think here in Norway, anyway, it's very positive. I think that yeah, well, from the point of that we or I and Sunniva actually has this expertise from both polar regions and me up here in the Arctic. I think I've got just a lot of positive feedback that we're doing this, and we are the two first women that do overwintering without men. So it's historical, but no, I haven't actually had any negative feedbacks when it comes to that. And all the women are supporting us, so that's cool. That's and great. All the girls.
Yeah, outstanding. Actually, that's the only question that I want to take to both people. So, Sunniva, do you have any thoughts on that? From a Norwegian perspective, it's been positive, which is really great to hear. Canadian perspective or international?
Yeah, and a great question because you know what we're seeing today in our world globally is more women in STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, and medicine. And so, you know, kudos to all of you girls in the audience that are listening right now and that are participating, because there's no longer, you know, there are no limitations to what we can do, male or female. And you know, I broke the ice ceiling in the Antarctic by being part of the team of the first women to ski to the South Pole, and Hilde has definitely broken and shattered the ice ceiling in the Arctic by really being a pioneer and a leader in what she's been doing up there. So I think in today's world, if we were doing this 20 years ago, maybe we would have gotten a lot of pushback, but we are two women who have done extraordinary things, but we consider ourselves still, you know, like kind of ordinary women, if you will. And I think that we're really trying to shed a light on how important it is that we bridge the gap that exists between what we think is possible for a man or a woman, and that regardless of, you know, your background, where you're from, where you live, how tall you are, how short you are, male, female, we're all capable of doing phenomenal things. And so I think the response has been quite positive for the two of us. And I think that our experience and our credibility speaks to that. So great question.
Outstanding. Thank you to both you ladies. Outstanding answers. I'm so glad we got that question. Thanks to the student who asked it. Tough question to follow up with, but we'll take one last question from Ms. Matsuda's class. Come on up, guys, and wrap us up.
What's the average temperature in the summer and winter?
And how and when did you guys meet? And when did you guys start working together?
Okay, so Sunniva, if you could answer the temperature question first, and then Hilda, I'll pass the second one to you in just a minute.
Okay, I think the average temperature is probably going to be about, you know, somewhere -10, -20 for us. And you have to add the wind chill to that, so that's going to drop the temperature even more. You know, anytime that I see Hilde, she's not wearing less than like a couple of layers of clothing, so it doesn't get very warm in the Arctic, even in the summertime. So I think for us, wearing layers is going to be just what we'll be doing every day.
Okay. And then the second question for you, Hilde, is, so this is a question I've been wondering too, I'm sure all the classes wondered, how did you two meet and how did this relationship develop to where you're going to be spending 9 months in a cabin together?
Yeah, that's a good question. We met on a travel event in Alaska almost 3 years ago. And I had plans for this overwintering in the beginning. I was planning to do this with my husband, and he didn't want to come. So then I was planning to do it by myself, and eventually I thought that was maybe could be a little unsafe for me. Then I met Sunniva, and she was the perfect partner for this expedition. And I don't know, we just had a real great connection. She has a very solid background, and we had this dream, both of us. So it just felt totally natural.
Outstanding. So as we wrap up, before we get the classes to say a big thank you, I want to pass a question to both of you, and I'll start with you, Hilde. Is there any last message you want to share with kids about how they can follow your expedition or learn more about the polar regions generally?
Yeah, well, we will try to, kids around the world are so much into climate change already. So if they could help us to sort of spread the word of what we are doing, trying to engage more people in this project, that would be great. And we will also, I don't know if Sunniva mentioned that, since I can't hear her, we're doing also then interactive classrooms with where we are trying to engage kids to do research in their local environments and share with other kids all over the world. And I think all this communication and attention and engagement in a positive way, that would be great to have some help doing that, and also try to figure out what they can do locally around their, back home in their houses, at school, in their environment. Yeah, so just help us to make this global.
Marvelous. Sunniva, anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
I think good points from Hilde right there. We're doing this project. We're going to be far away from everybody, far away from Netflix, and we won't have any of the comforts that we're used to now, that you're used to. And we're doing this because we feel like it's now that the problem exists, and so we're not just leaning into the conversation. We're standing up and we're showing up. So we really do want to invite the kids, because all of you that are participating on this call, even if you're watching on YouTube, is your voices matter. Your participation, your deposits, all of it matters greatly. And so whatever stories you can share with us on changes you've seen over the last 10 years, maybe do a little homework, find out some data from 10 years ago, what your neighborhood was like and what it is now, and maybe the change in species or the change in snowcap if you live in the mountains. So yeah, and then go to our website, heartsintheice.com. We have a way for schools to get involved, because we will make a live satellite call and video feed every 2 weeks from that hut that you saw. So thanks so much for participating today. We need you.
And we will pass along all those links to all the classes and more. So we appreciate you guys so much. You two are so inspiring, so exciting. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now what we're going to do at the end of every hangout is I'm going to demute the mic of every class. So boys and girls, if you guys could get ready, every single class, you can join me in saying a huge thank you. Awesome, guys. Hilde, Sunniva, thank you so much. What a wonderful hangout. Good luck on the expedition.
Thank you.
And we look very forward to following you guys as the expedition continues. Have a wonderful rest of